the finality of a spring game. We had a great breakfast this morning with the football team, and just with all the families there. Again, one of my favorite days, just to see all the moms, dads, uncles, grandmas, whatever it may be, and again, it's a special time. It brings the football team together. I had a chance to get all the players that are new, all the newcomers that came in January, to introduce themselves as well. That started the day off, which was great. Our kids were fired up. Everybody got up there was talking about the blue win or gold winning, and so there was a lot of enthusiasm for the game. I think our kids went out and had fun. Never as clean as you want it to be, but I think when you split the teams up like you do, sometimes you're going to get that. But there were some good things. There were some drop passes that we got to make that you'd like to see. It comes down to the blue winning. But we got 2 missed field goals on the goal team, which we would have been at 2 minutes to win the game at the end, as opposed to we went and kicked that last field goal. So James didn't play great today like he has, but maybe he got nervous. Everything that's a first for him in Power 4 has kind of been the same thing. So I bet you if we had a second spring game, he'd have been all right. Carpenter kicked it well and gave them a chance to win the football game. Questions?
Just how the whole FUD thing worked today?
I have to watch the tape. I think I gave one on Sportsmanlike. I know some of the running backs and receivers weren't happy. Coach, it's thud. But, there's some of the thud that I was, mad at the defense. So I was screaming at the defensive guys to make sure they're, they say it's not 2-hand tags. So there's that in between. I was happy they didn't tackle Kyle Lewis on the one. They said no one thudded him up. I'm like, get out of here. Jade Moore had him, but was smart enough not to tackle Kyle Lewis. But how about Kyle Lewis he was supposed to run it, by the way. So he was supposed to run it, and they were going to come back and run a toss pass. But he's like, it was open. I had to throw it. He said, Coach, players make plays, and that's a fact.
What do you think of the game you had today?
It was solid. The first interception he threw on an RPO, he should have handed it off. I think we had a big hole in there if you guys go back and watch that video. But, he was solid. I think he finished better than he started. But he was solid, and, I think he was good.
Today a good reflection of what you've seen so far this spring, or was it different than what you've seen?
The whole, again, it's a thud scrimmage, so it's different than what I've, seen. But, I think when you get into a spring game like that, our guys are they played smart today. So we didn't go live. We didn't, tackle anybody. I'm sure there would have been a lot more yards had we done that. Matter of fact, there was another pass that the officials called dead. I don't know if anybody tackled him. I forget who it was, across the middle, going towards the scoreboard. But it was a solid day. Again, main thing is we came out healthy because we couldn't afford any more injuries.
How about Mason's first opportunity in that environment?
He's a good football player. I mean, he's just got a little swagger to him, and he threw the ball well. Had a nice RPO. You saw Blue could run. Number 81. I might have to change his number here at the end of fall camp. He wants a single digit. If he keeps playing like that, he'll get one.
What about Shadarian Harrison and Kenny Johnson made them the most improved players this spring?
Yeah, I'll start with Drip. He has 2 picks out there. The most impressive thing about him is he missed a lot of reps with that, that injury he had. But the way he fought in the offseason to get better at everything. And the guy must have been watching tape on his own because he came out in spring ball and just knew what he was doing. In the knowledge of just, going out there and playing that position at corner that he does, he had a heck of a day. I know it was an underthrown ball on the deep ball, and Eli didn't step into that one like he needs to. Again, worried about the pass rush a little bit, but it wasn't a great pass, but it was a great catch by him. We've seen DBs not make plays on the ball. Drip, he's got ball skills, so I'm happy for him, but it really was down to his knowledge. It was just shocking. We've had other guys come back, and it's like, Groundhog Day. It's like they got to start all over again. He picked up like he had a lot of snaps. We know he played well on special teams at the end of the year, but to come out and play defense like he did. And then Kenny Johnson, he had a couple drops today. He was, one of the guys mad at thud. Because he got, one of those, balls broken up. I told him, I think he thought it was whiz instead of thud. But, DBs are going to go make a play on the ball, and, he's got to be prepared for that. But Kenny's been, outstanding all spring. He is a different receiver than he was last year. Just the details to his route running is probably the main thing. Just the detail in route running and understand how to stack receivers and get open. He's gotten a lot better at that wide receiver spot.
What can you say about Turner and Cook since you guys were so thin at running back?
Yeah, we've been riding low, with Dez being a guy that didn't finish it up in the spring, but Turner's been outstanding all spring, and Justin Cook is a football player. He hasn't played much running back in his career, but we knew we were short going into camp, and so when he got here, we just moved to running back right away because we thought just going through winter workouts, watching him run, and again, you talk about the durability. Those guys took a majority, even when Dez was healthy, we didn't give him a lot of reps. We've seen Dez run already, so in practice, Desmond Reed didn't get a lot of snaps. So Justin Reed, you just talk, that him and Boosie just war daddies as far as just, those guys are getting, hit every play. I mean, by 2 and 3 guys on defense. So, I love their toughness, and both of them can make plays with the ball. And, so I'm impressed with both of those guys.
Derrick Henry's still part of the equation?
He is. I mean, he's recovering. He had a pretty significant knee injury, so he's going to be a while. Jerry, I'll answer that injury question for you. But, he didn't take any snaps this spring, and it's going to be a while. I don't think he'll be ready for August camp.
Did you get what you wanted out of that gold offensive line so that you kept the first team or something?
I'm sorry, go ahead,
Did you get
Steven?
what you wanted out of that gold offensive line?
I think so. Again, you watch the tape and see, we'll look at it, but I think it was solid. I think the protection was decent today. I'm getting yelled at all the time. I got a sack. There was times that were, these guys, there weren't sacks, and they're not going to tackle Duggar. I can tell you that for sure. But I thought the offense line overall, 15 days of spring, we're better.
It felt like a majority of your young guys making those plays, and maybe not necessarily high on the depth chart just because of the injuries come August. But what does that say about the future with so many of those young guys popping off?
Again, young guys coming out in the first spring game. TK had a drop pass that was, could have been a big time play for him, and he hasn't dropped a pass all spring. But sometimes you see that when the lights come on in the stadium. And Cameron Sapp had a nice day. And again, then you watch Bryce Yates. All 3 of those guys, those young, 3 freshmen. It was good to see, Bryce Yates. His mom and dad were here today. They came to one of the first scrimmages. They didn't get a catch, so it was good to see him catch ball because he's really played well as well. So I mentioned him. I think Thursday afternoon or Friday, whatever day that was, we talked. It was good to see Bryce Yates make some plays, and I think he caught everything. TK had a drop, which he hasn't dropped many passes. So, but all those guys will be, fighting for playing time in the fall.
And how did that blue defensive line kind of impact what that starting line could do?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to see out there, Jeff. To be honest with you, we'll see. But there were some times we just got to get the throw and put the throw in there and put it on the money. But I thought it was solid. And again, the defense was really split up as well. I mean, the offensive line should have had the advantage with the 1s and the 2s, but with the D line being split up, maybe we didn't see as much. But I think it was solid versus the run game for the most part. But I was happy with them.
How did your perspective on the quarterback room change this spring from what you saw to Mason and Julian?
The depth, this spring, we have 3 guys that we think we can win a football game with. All 3 of those guys. And for Mason to come in as a true freshman and play like he has is impressive. We've talked about Julian all spring ball, about how much, improvement he's made. We didn't really get to see him run the ball today based on the play calling with Julian, but, he can really run the ball. I don't know if he threw it particularly well today, but he's throwing it a lot better than he is. So we got a lot of faith in all 3 of those guys.
To Cade Bell the other day, he said last spring he brought up contrast when you guys had a lot more quarterbacks, and he said he likes it this spring that since there's fewer quarterbacks, all those guys got a bunch of reps. Are you happy with having the fewer 4 quarterbacks now instead of having however many you had last year?
Yeah, that was kind of the plan, or we'd have taken a quarterback in the portal as we came out of the season last year. So that was our goal. We thought we had 3 pretty good ones. It's like let's invest these spring reps in those guys, and then we'll see where we are. But you feel a lot better, that even if you didn't want to take one, David Lynch is a good football player. You see him come in there and operate, which we've had a lot of trust in him as well. He had a pretty good day too. But we feel good about that quarterback room, and we'll just see if we can get the right guy that we like, or we'll ride like we are.
Will there be any areas you address in the portal for spring?
We'll look at the depth chart after spring, see how things go, and adjust it that way.
They feel great. I know, for one, our defense they did a great job of, whenever it was stud, of keeping our guys up and protecting them. We didn't do a lot of live this spring, which was good. But when we did do live, those guys played physical and played hard. I know I was joking with Justin the other day. He probably played a game this season because he had 127 carries before this game within the 15 practices, and Shadarian had 135 carries within the 15 practices. So they got a lot of quality reps in the day. I mean, they was bouncing around, jumping around, body still feeling good and fresh. So, but they do a great job of being pros too, as well. And our training staff do a great job as well with helping them keep their body fresh and doing everything they can. I mean, Justin and Shadarian's in the building every day, before 6 a.m., getting treatment, getting prehab and all those things, and then they're there later taking care of their body. So they did a good job with that.
Just with Shadarian and the entire freshman class, how impressed with you, just that whole group, like with how they performed this spring?
Oh, I mean, I think our staff did an amazing job recruiting, and getting those guys to come in mid-year and seeing them perform this spring and continue to get better throughout the spring every single day. I thought they did a really great job. And it was great to see, now we see what we have. And then now, they got in early, so now they come in the summer and do a lot of, good stuff in the summer and continue to learn the offense, the better they're going to be. I mean, with Cam Sapp, Tony Kinsler, Shadarian, Bryce Yates, all those guys, and then, of course, Mason. So I think it's awesome, and I think they're going to be okay.
Building off of that, it felt like it was freshmen and sophomores making play after play today. What does that say about maybe not the short-term future, but the long-term future of this program?
Oh, it says a lot. It says a lot. I mean, that's the name of the game is recruiting, and that's the thing, too. We go get, high school guys, too. That's still a thing here. I think Coach Narduzzi did a great job with the high school guys that we did sign, and they are young, so it just says that the future is bright here in Pittsburgh.
Additional, I guess, just with just kind of building up the whole freshman topic, just seeing Mason today, that was probably the first look a lot of us got to see him play in a live. Was that how he was all spring?
Yes, sir, all spring. I mean, in the beginning, he had to get adjusted a little bit, and Coach K. Bell got him, adjusted rather quickly than any other normal freshman. So, but after that, I mean, he's been doing that all spring, so it's no surprise to us.
Heck no. He's such a fun guy to coach. His competitive spirit, and he's a playmaker. He's a ball player. Certainly not surprising. We made it hard on him. We rolled him the wrong way. He's a lefty. If you saw that, ball didn't come out very pretty, but big time play. Fun to watch him do it.
He'll do that game. It's a little game, isn't he?
Huh?
You keep betting.
We'll see. Not long at all. Actually, we called upon his services shortly after the draft and tried to keep it under the wraps so they didn't know it was coming. And certainly when he had the ball, it garnered a bunch of attention, so able to pull the defense up and slide Zion through there to get a nice reception.
Just about Kyle and specifically, like last year at this time, he was trying to be the man, and now he is. How has he kind of carried himself this spring?
Kyle's awesome, and he's always had that confidence, but balances it with good, being humble as well. And we reflected on a few years ago and just seeing that growth, and with his success, it's really cool to see him keep the chip on his shoulder, stay hungry. He's still really early into the building, watching film, bringing guys with him, competes his tail off every single day. So it's fun to watch. You know what I mean? To see an All-American stay that hungry and keep coming, keeping guys going, that's special. And I think it's a blessing for our team, to have Kyle.
What about Cam Lindsey, the PBU early in the game and just his overall development?
Yeah, Cam Lindsey's been fun this spring to see his development. Comes to work every day, works really hard. I think he looks good. I think you guys probably noticed. He looked bigger, stronger, more confident for sure. He said got a hand on the ball, made some plays out there, not live, so you don't get to see him finish I think he does a good job finishing and being aggressive. We saw this spring. So excited about his growth, and I think he's going to have an impact this year. Excited about it.
How much do you think Kim learning from Kyle has helped maybe speed up his development this spring?
I think it's huge. I think, having Kyle in the room and seeing him on the field do things, because he's such a technician, takes such pride in his footwork and his change of direction, his block to feed, his tackling, his angles, his pass drops, his coverage angles, his blitz pass, his stunts, you know what I mean? All of that stuff, when you can see someone do it right, helps. You know what I mean? And, I can tell you, we could draw it on the board, but when you see a guy do it, it's easier to emulate. So having Kyle there, I think, is huge for Cam's development.
Battle going on at the Mike linebacker position between Jeremiah and Braylon. What did you see from them today, and where does that sort of stand?
Yeah, I think both Braylon and Jeremiah had a great spring. As you think about, losing Brandon George and Keith Thompson there, some veteran guys in the middle, that was something we needed to see this spring, and their development's been great. I think they've garnered trust from the rest of the defense, that they can command and they can get everybody lined up from a mental standpoint. And then they're both playmakers. I think Braylon, picking up for what he did last year shows he can continue to make plays. And then Jeremiah was a little bit more limited last year. You got to see him really show his physical presence, which is good to see. He's a strong young man physically. But his mental preparation has been really impressive too, and I think guys see that. So we're going to need both those guys. I think they make each other better, and they make us better as a defense and as a football team. So fired up to see where they're at, and they'll continue. And so it's kind of our last talk there as linebackers. We're building that foundation. We got to keep going. You know what I mean? Through the end of spring here, through summer, through fall camp to get where we want to go. And so I think they're hungry. They both, need to keep going. This has been great, but they need to keep getting better, and they will.
I wanted to ask you about, not spring football related, but a couple weeks ago, Brandon George had awesome spring, pro day or whatever. What's it kind of been like, the transformation in the linebacker room? Moss got drafted. Brandon has a good chance. You have Kyle. You have all these things. Like, what's kind of clicking right now for your room?
I guess first to speak about Brandon, incredible pro day. And certainly we're not surprised. He's a guy who's really athletic and talented and has the length, speed, and, garnered a bunch of attention there, having that performance. So excited to see what happens here and give him a chance and opportunity to go play at the highest level. It's impressive. And, had Servassier visit probably a month prior. I think he has the opportunity to be a starter this year, compete for that with the Buccaneers. So that's cool to see. But, I think it excites them all. They're building it, and it's them. You know what I mean? They're doing it. They're pushing each other, and it's fun to see. And those guys, it's a brotherhood. They're talking about each other. They all talk to each other, learning from each other. Servassier's in the building, showing those guys things he's learning at the highest level, things that transfer from here. Making sure they know what they need to do, be great, knowledge players, and make sure the details they know are important, because those carry on. Once you learn a defense at this level, you get to the next level, this equals that, right? And so once you know it inside and out, there's a lot of transferable skills there. And so he's been a great mentor to those guys, and so it's special.
Looking at the team as a whole, there were a lot of young guys out there just balling out, having fun, and it was evident in how they were playing. What does that say about, the youth of this team? Because, in this day and age, it feels like we've not necessarily at Pitt, but players that are, 25, 26 sticking around. So what does that say to see them go out? Yeah,
it's exciting. It's exciting. I think, you saw a bunch of guys stand out. For one, for sure, on the blue team, Drip Harrison, big-time plays out there, which was fun to see, and we need that. Continuing to see guys step up. And, I think football is the greatest game in the world. It gives those guys the opportunity to challenge themselves to be dominant and be champions. And I think we got a good group of young guys to push and help us win a championship. So it's been exciting.
We asked Randy about the linebackers the other day. He made a point to say they don't do anything without the D-line. What have you noticed from that group? You think about them heading into this coming year?
Absolutely. I think Coach Dowse has done a tremendous job getting those guys running off the football, being physical up front. We're stout and have some good guys, building walls up front, which is what we want to do in the run game, build a wall up front, and then get after the quarterback. Once we can, stop the run, transition to long passing yard situations and get pass rushers going. So I think it was good to see. We got some new tools on the edges, and some stout guys inside returning. And so it's been fun. And like you said, it does. We don't make anything happen without those guys at the linebacker level. We need those guys up front. We work together, that front seven. And our safeties, as you know, are very, very much involved in the run game. But I think they've come a long way. We all have in the front seven, and excited about that.
Coach Narduzzi, he said you're just a different receiver than you were a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
I think my focus, like my intention to the game, and just the way that I attack the game is way different this year. Like I'm looking at coverages, like I'm being detailed in my routes and getting my depth, and probably one of the bigger things too is the communication with Eli. Like I feel like we're on a better level now, and like now we got this summer, we go at the fall, all the way up until the season. So we got all that time to get better. So it's only gonna get better than what it is.
You just mentioned this, but how much easier is it for you getting another year with Eli? Obviously, your first year here, the team rotated through 3 different quarterbacks. So how much do you feel like that's just elevated your game?
Yeah, I feel like quarterback and receiver is like the most like position that you need the most chemistry in, just because like everything's timing. If I'm at 10 yards and Eli thinks I'm at 12, the ball is a missed throw. So not all bad throws on the quarterback, and that's what it is. Like it's just chemistry, and we have to be on the same page. And if we're not, everything just goes downhill.
There's a lot of receivers in the room, a lot of guys who sound like they had a really good camp. But what was it like for you to win the most improved offensive player?
I think that meant a lot to me, just because first off, it's the first time that I felt like I've heard recognition for me being more improved than what I was doing, and I think just the fact of the matter that I stayed focused. I knew going into camp that I was going to be pretty much the most experienced receiver with the most game time, and I knew that. So coming in as focused as I was, honestly kind of impressed me, myself.
So as that experienced receiver, to see Blue make a play like that, what was that like for you?
That gives me relief, because now I know if a team wants to play with a safety over top, a corner there, they're doubling me, they got Blue over there in one-on-one coverage, I feel confident that we're going to win. I feel confident that Zion's going to win. I feel confident that whoever's over there is going to win. So that's just a big relief for me, like being able to have a good tandem with me, and really work off of.
How do you like being leader of the White House?
I love it.
What do you like about it?
I think that, just because I saw how it was when I came here, how Tay led the room, how Bub led the room, how those older guys led the room, and I always said that I wanted it to be like that. And now that I'm in control, I have control to do that. So I think that's what I love the most about it.
On the opposite side, Shadarian won, or Drip, he won. What did you see? Because obviously you go up against each other. What did he do to get better this year?
He made me better. And that's how I judge things. And if I know that, and obviously with his shoulder and stuff, like his injuries, he's coming back. He's strong. He's healthy. He's getting hands on. He's disruptive. He played great this spring. I can't wait to see him play in the fall. And the strides that he's made from when we first, because me and Drip came in same time. You know what I mean? So seeing the strides that he's made as a player, the way that he's developed, the way he's taken coaching, it's so impressive.
It's a great feeling. It's always a great feeling we win. Shout out Blue Team, but yeah, just the feeling is mutual, definitely. I feel like Kenny definitely got me better throughout the spring season, and definitely, yeah.
Share your knowledge of where the game is now, and even the plays you made today. Do you feel like some of that that's film work? Like I knew where to be because of some of the work I did in the offseason.
I would say definitely a mixture of both. I would say just watching film and just watching film and doing both in training hard as possible, going 1,000 miles per hour during practice. Just going fast and just trying to play with it with maximum effort each time I go out there, because I try to seize every moment, every opportunity. So yeah.
Was film work a big part of that period where you were injured, where you had that shoulder injury that Coach Narduzzi mentioned? Did you feel like this is what I have to do now since I can't be on the field like I want?
Definitely, yeah, I would say so because there's times where you go out there and you be puzzled or I'll be puzzled or play and I have to go back to the drawing board and I have to go and look at it and see what I did wrong. So definitely like going back and looking at the film and seeing what I did wrong definitely helps. And going back out there and trying to regurgitate back what my coach is doing, telling me to do, is just going back out there and just doing it. It definitely helps. Watching film, yeah, for sure.
You were really successful in high school, won a lot of games, played a lot, and then you came here and you were hurt. This time, just played on special teams. I mean, what was the last 2 years like for you kind of getting through it?
It definitely was a setback, I would say. Mentally draining, I would say, just trying to get back mentally and physically. It was a pretty tough 2 years just coming in. With all the confidence in the world, and just get shot. Obviously, the second spring that I got hurt in at the beginning of it, it was kind of mentally just draining. But just coming back, just with a positive attitude, I would say, Coach Collins definitely was patient with me throughout the whole process, and I'm very appreciative of that. As far as going through my process, he was very just patient and, always kept me uplifted, I would say. So, definitely, yeah.
Is there anything you learned from some of the older guys in the room, like Rashad and Timon, just being around them?
Yeah, so definitely Rashad Battle, he's one of the smartest minds in the DB room, period. That man definitely has a mind for the game. In and out. He knows the game, and whatever I need help with, he's there to help me with. So I'm very appreciative of that. Just the experience that Mondo and the boys have is very helpful. So yeah, for sure.
Where did the nickname Drip come from?
It's a funny story. It's a Little League name. It came from Little League. My older cousin cut my hair when I was a little boy, or just very young, I would say. And I had it's really the opposite. I had a opposite drip. It's really opposite of, I would say, just tacky wear. I had a lot of just bands and sleeves that just didn't match. So he just was calling me drip. You got all the drip on. So I just had too much drip on, I would say. When I was very young, it's very young. So yeah.
One of those where he called you that to make fun of you, and then you
basically it's a joke. Yeah, it was a joke. Yeah, kind of just kept it. Yeah.
Go out there and get an interception off of Eli in the literal second snap of the game. What was just that moment? First game back since the injury. I say in quotes because spring game, but just to make an impact that quickly. What was it that like?
Yeah, so that definitely got us going. I didn't really expect it happening. It was just one of those regular plays that kind of just happened late. But I kind of made him pay for it, and yeah, that's pretty much what happened. It just kind of made him pay. Yeah.
Can you take us through what happened on that 65-yard touchdown?
Oh, that's how long it was? We already knew what we was game planning. So he said we was going to run it in the game, and he said I was going to score on it. And I seen it pre-snap, and I seen Mason, number 6, look at me. I already knew. I just need to catch it and just get vertical or just run, and that's what I did. That's it.
Impact you making a play like that there heading into fall game?
It gave me a lot of confidence. I already had a lot of confidence, but it just built it more. So, hey, I don't even know what to say right now, but.
Kenny said watching you and Zion today gives him more confidence because he knows one of you guys will be on the other side. And,
yeah.
If he's double teamed, he has confidence you guys will catch it. What does that mean to hear that from Kenny?
It sounds great. It sounds good because from Kenny, if y'all was, what that was, when we had practice last Thursday? Yeah. Kenny made a nice catch slow. He lost his leverage, but it was a fade. He got it back, and he made the catch. That turned me up, and I went and made a spectacular catch. That was 2 minutes. Yeah, that was 2 minutes. I did that off his energy. Off that pass, it gave me, you feel me? I was turned, and that's how I made my play. I fed off his energy. That's what we do.
How's
has your adjustment just been to, starting at a new school, just
Good.
working in a new offense? How's everything been just since you
It's
got
been
to
great.
Pittsburgh?
It's been great. I'm loving it, loving every step of it.
Do you get the sense during that play, if it had been tackling out there, you would have scored anyway?
Yeah, they didn't even touch me.
They weren't holding back or anything? Really?
Nah. Even though I was tackled, same thing. Same result.
The touchdown pass came from Mason. What can you just say about what you've seen from him as a freshman coming in?
Yeah, he nice. Lil Mason, as a freshman, he nice. I love Lil Mason. I love all our quarterbacks, though. I love all our quarterbacks.
So you were supposed to run on that play?
How y'all find out about that? So at practice, we only did one practice rep, and it was me passing the ball. So they called my name over. Somebody on the sideline said, "Get ready to throw the ball to Z." So I'm thinking I'm about to throw this ball to Z. He calling the play. I'm not really listening, so I'm just thinking, just throw the ball, throw the ball. I really wasn't going to throw it. I was going to run it, even though I thought it was a pass play. But I just saw like 3 defenders in my face, and I saw Z cut open, so I just threw it to him. It all worked out, though.
Were you a quarterback? Like, you're throwing across your body and that type of throw, that's...
I was never no quarterback. I played like wildcat quarterback. Like, I never threw the ball for real, though. It was just nice play.
You talk to the coaches about maybe inserting that play in a real game this fall?
Man, I've been begging the coaches to call that play right there. So, I'm going to keep definitely begging the coaches just to put the ball in my hands so the magic's going to work.
Defensively, what are your thoughts on how the team played on that side of the ball?
On our side of the ball, I think we played great. On the other side of the ball, I think we still played good. Definitely, outside of just defense, just offense and defense, definitely things we're definitely improve on every position, everywhere. So, definitely improvements, but I feel like we all showing a bright future.
I feel like I probably asked you this last offseason, but, for so long, like, Pitt was known for defensive line. Then every year a defensive back gets drafted.
Yeah.
What's been clicking lately for the linebackers? I mean, B. George had the great pro day. Obviously, you're coming off an All-American season. What's just working right now for the Pitt linebackers?
Definitely shout out to Coach Manalac. So he always find little things to improve on. But outside of that, it's just energy and just, the love that we got for each other to push each other. We feel like we got an actual brotherhood, with this shark thing, just looking out for each other, make sure we all good. So I feel like that's just the number one reason why we just pushing each other to be the best.
He said Voss has been coming back, kind of giving you guys some pointers. How's that been, just learning from him a little bit more?
Yeah, that Voss is definitely crazy, smart. Just outside of football, he's just a smart man. So I always love just getting $1 million game from Voss. That's always just been great talks with him. So.
Both Coach Manalac and Cam Lindsey have kind of given you a little bit of credit for how much Cam has progressed over the spring, him learning from you. He had the big pass breakup today in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
What can you say about what you've seen from him at the start of camp and to now?
I'm proud of Cam. I'm super proud of Cam. Just coming in as a young buck last year, and I'm telling you, he came a long way. Definitely over, this springtime. I definitely in my eyes say he's been the most improved player. So I bet the other coaches probably think he was a runner-up behind Drip. So I'm definitely proud of Cam. Definitely think he's going to make some big plays this year.
One of the leaders of the team, and playmaker and All-American, what kind of message do you send to your teammates that maybe will help launch things a little further than where they were last year?
Everybody got to put the work in. So, the work is always in the pudding. Everybody always see me either just getting extra film in, putting extra work in. Everything matters. I always believe in just leading by example. I ain't never been the type to be too vocal about it, but I'm definitely stepping up in the vocal role. But number one thing is leading by example. If you do what's right, everybody else gonna follow behind that.
We didn't get a chance to see a ton of Jada Barnes. He was out there with you and the blue team. What can you just tell us about just his camp? What you've seen from him so far?
I'm telling y'all, Jada, he coming. Y'all don't know him. We grew up around the same area, so I knew Black growing up all my life. We played each other in Pop One and everything. He always just been an athlete. So I'm telling y'all, he ain't really have opportunity because an injury or whatever been going on with him. But definitely this fall camp, you definitely going to see a lot of Black.